Going on here. There we go. Hey, everybody. It is Monday night, just after 7 o'clock. Hey, everybody. This is The Yard Sign, the most important relevant podcast in politics. Your host, as always, Jonny Torres. How you doing? Hope you had a great Halloween weekend. This was a no-costume year for me personally, but it was nice to take a break, although I definitely got my costume idea for next year, so stay tuned for that. All right. There's just so much to talk about tonight. Plus, we have a special guest joining us on the big table. And so we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. First of all, let's run through our topics for tonight. Battle of Virginia tomorrow, big election day, not only here locally for us in Tampa Bay, but also in the state of Virginia, New Jersey as well, both with the possibility of electing a Republican governor. So we're going to break that down. The NFL Plantation, Colin Kaepernick coming out with a very saucy, or sassy, should I say. Just kidding. It's controversial. Kaepernick doing what he does best in regards to trying to stir up some mess. Just equating the NFL to slavery. That's all he's doing. Trump at the World Series. We'll not only talk about his popularity, but also Biden's, which continues to crater, and the St. Pete mayoral race, which I just talked about. Robert Blackman, Ken Welch going head-to-head tomorrow, as it is election day in St. Petersburg, and could there be the possibility of a Republican mayor in St. Petersburg? So we'll talk about all those things. We're also going to open with some breaking news as I bring in my two guests tonight. We are hearing that Christine Quinn, candidate for what was District 14, and right through the middle of Hillsborough County, has now jumped ship over to Congressional District 13, which is a much more purple district, but already crowded with Amanda Mackey, Anna Paulina Luna, and lots of drama. So joining me tonight, we'll kind of start there real quickly, since it wasn't a scheduled topic, from left to right. We've got Anibal David Cabrera, as always, and my good friend and candidate for Hillsborough County Commission, Scott Levinson. District 1?
Yes, sir.
All right. See, I got that right. I always get the numbers. I'm horrible with the numbers. I can, but
let's start at the beginning and you work from there.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and break down the, let's break down what's happening with District 14. It's something that we are on this show very transparent about. It is a near impossible kamikaze-like type of effort to run in that district because of the numbers. Now you are no longer a rookie when it comes to running for office and knowing some of the landscape politically. Tell me what's kind of your first thoughts? I mean, Jay Collins is in that race. Christine Quinn. I think there's maybe a third.
Well, she's out now.
Well, she's out now, right? So
Angel Urbina.
Angel Urbina, that's right. That was the other one I was thinking about.
Right.
Which, again, Angel, a great guy. I'm sure we may have him on the show soon at some point. But he went from losing a state house district in a very Republican, in a very Hispanic, very difficult to win state house district to now running for Congress. Typically you got to win one before you kind of step up to the next, and not sure what his thinking is there. But, as far as Quinn goes, I mean, I don't get the reasoning behind this. Anibal, what are your thoughts here?
I think she's getting crowded out in District 14. I think the Jay Collins, who is a great candidate, who meets a lot of the check marks and everything else as a Republican, is very much very difficult to beat in the primary. I'm going to say that out loud. And I think that either someone is persuading her, maybe one of the consultants, to move, or told her it's a better way to run in the other district. Now, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to run in an already very crowded, very woman heavy, I'm going to say race. So let's see what that looks like. But I'm shocked that she actually decided to jump from 14 to 13, especially in a county that I don't think she's been doing much to push herself onto. So I don't know what the leadership of Pinellas County is going to look like, or if they're going to even accept her as a viable person for that district, because she doesn't live in the county. She doesn't live in the district.
Well, we talked about somebody who, and again, she's probably going to apply fuzzy math with her address or something.
No.
But I mean,
she does her business.
Right.
Is there.
In Pinellas.
in Pinellas.
See, I thought it was in Polk
No, it's in Pinellas.
or like Plant City or
There's
something
a
like
warehouse in Polk.
No,
No, the whole thing's in Pinellas.
yeah.
that. Wow. Okay.
But she lives in Hillsborough County.
All right,
Allegedly.
but still, after all these years, 2 cycles now, building up her name ID, spending a ridiculous amount of money, to again go up against a juggernaut that is Kathy Castor, to then now jump ship to a completely new district where she has no roots. I mean, I just. Again, I don't understand the reasoning behind this. I don't understand why she just doesn't, leverage, all the work that she's done maybe towards somebody that might be a more viable candidate in District 14. And again, I think she's going to be wasting time, resources, for the viable candidates in both of those races.
She also burned a lot of bridges. She has burnt a lot of bridges.
Well, because she's played the blame game, post-mortem, every time she's run.
Yeah.
And so eventually you run out of people to blame, and you can only blame yourself. Mm-hmm. It's, it is what it is. I mean, I don't think that she's going to have any better chance in Pinellas than she's had in Hillsborough. Mostly because, again, it's already a crowded field, and the front runners in that race have already been established. And I find her hard to kind of see as a front runner in Pinellas District 14, especially given that it is a far less conservative district than the one than Hillsborough County is at large. So
I think what's going to happen in that particular district, I still see people jumping into CD13. For some odd reason, I'm still hearing rumors that there might be 1 or 2 more individuals that are very established in the community that are just waiting to see what shakes out when it comes to redistricting. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm hearing on my side. I don't have names. They're not willing to give them yet.
Right.
But they're saying that they're waiting to see what the redistricting looks like. But again, having Anna Paulina Luna, having Amanda Mackey, those are already 2 very viable candidates. They're raising tons of money in their own circles, and as that continues to flow, we're able to see what it's going to look like.
Right. Sorry about that. I'm over here trying to monitor the program while it's underway. Let's go ahead and jump into tonight's topics. Again, thank you, everybody, for watching The Yard Sign. Don't forget, you can download the audio version of our podcast on pretty much any and every digital platform out there for podcasts, thanks to the tech overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio. So you can find this show on all of those platforms out there. We are, of course, watching very closely what's happening in Virginia as of late. Rumor has it that we're seeing an early kind of departure or step back by Terry McAuliffe in terms of appearances, events, which, I mean, to me, tends to say in any campaign that they think they've done all they can do. And honestly, I think they're almost taking kind of a Biden-like approach here.
I was going to say that when all else fails, try the Biden bunker technique.
Just shut up and let's see where the cards fall. So Youngkin, I think, has done really well to kind of navigate the waters between supporting President Trump, but also kind of, really putting himself out there as an original candidate.
He's running his campaign why he mentions Trump, but he's running his campaign.
Yeah.
He's not riding the coattails. He's not even pretending he is. He's really, and let's get real. I mean, we've all know one thing for sure. The 10 words he said, you just don't say.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Forget everything else. There are certain things you do and don't do in this world. One thing you do not tell a parent is you should have no say over what your child learns, does, where they go, what they do. And I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent. When you're a mama bear and someone tells you that you shouldn't have a say in something your child does, you just I can't think of anything dumber He could have said.
Yeah.
I don't want to insult the guy,
Right.
but
Yeah, we do.
yeah, okay. But how do you tell a parent what's how dare you think you should have a say in your children's life?
It's because the Democrat Party is so indoctrinated when it comes to how they interpret the family dynamic that they've always wanted to destroy it, to be able to just fundamentally change and show that they just want to educate and indoctrinate the children, and they have no desire for parents to have some form of opinion on it. And you're seeing it across the country where a lot of parents are really upset with their school boards. And again, that's probably the best thing that could have happened this midterms, is that parents have really woken up and seen how much damage has occurred at their schools and in their school boards and all the additional things that are going on. And Virginia is a great example of just how upset parents are with their school boards.
I mean, you look at what's happening. You talked about the father that was at the school board meeting that was arrested. Now, I understand you can't go nuts at a school board meeting.
Yeah.
You can't yell, scream, go after anyone. But what a horrible story that this father's daughter was in a bathroom at school, which should be a safe place. And I don't like that word. I don't even like that phrase,
Correct.
safe place. But you're in a girls' bathroom. And if I'm a dad, I have 3 sons. But if I have a daughter and there is someone walking in a bathroom that is of the other gender, the other sex, and I don't care if he was wearing a skirt, a blouse, or whatever.
Right.
The only way I could break it down is if your plumbing doesn't match the name on the bathroom door, you probably shouldn't be in it.
Well, we're seeing that, some of these perverts are going in there dressed as women with cameras strapped to their shoes and other kind of devices, for them to, again, exploit, the current dysfunction that's happening in our country when it comes to gender identification, right? So you have that problem. You have the school problem. The other one that we wanted to make sure to mention, and we have the graphic actually for it, is Tiki Gate. Okay, and this, I think, was the biggest reason why we're hearing very little from the McAuliffe campaign today. All the Democrats that were both involved directly and indirectly have gone very quiet over the past few days, especially over the weekend. And they're trying to distract. They're trying to, even the media is playing favors to them because I think, had it been the other way around, had it taken off the way they anticipated, which was to ruse the media into thinking that it was a Republican group that did this.
Which worked for like 2 hours.
Yeah, this would have been national headlines for the whole weekend, and it would have been the top headline this morning. But the fact that 5 or 6 Democrat staffers, were caught posing as white supremacists in front of the Youngkin bus at a campaign rally, and it is literally the lowest of the lowest form of politics. And the sad thing is, as we know, is there's always a tie to Florida, sadly, and even in this case, because it turns out that Rick Wilson, who was a very popular, very well-respected Republican consultant for a long time, became a hardcore never-Trumper. I mean, basically is on the payroll at MSNBC because he's on there all the time, and made millions off of the Lincoln Project, is trying to claim credit for this. Now, it would be easy to say, okay, well, he's claiming credit for it. Then that's kind of the end of the story. But the thing is that all of these individuals that were caught doing this little stunt in front of the bus, they're all Democrat staffers. They literally have pictures of them driving these huge vans. There was one girl.
She was the one that got caught the first. She was the first one that got caught. And again, they're all also young Democrats.
Right.
So they're all YDs.
And then the one girl of the group, there's a picture of her online driving a huge van that says Virginia Democrats on the side.
Guys, this is what I call a pure and simple Forrest Gump. Stupid is as stupid does. And I mean, come on. If you're going to try to do something like this, can we at least put a little effort into it?
Well, like Anibal said, it worked for a couple hours.
So they threw it out there. The incident occurred,
and they all jumped on it, right? Because they knew it was coming.
And no one's taking credit of it until someone realized that, oh wait, I've seen that girl before. I've seen that guy before. They realized what happened, and then the Lincoln Project and other people had to come out and say, oh yeah, this was us, that we did it. They weren't going to ever say it was them.
The McAuliffe campaign, the Virginia Democrats, and then a local station from Charlottesville were all the ones to jump on the story. So they fed it knowing what was going to happen.
So let me throw this out there, and I'll play devil's advocate. And let me preface this by saying I do not approve of any violence. I don't approve of breaking windows, breaking doors, but is it so far-fetched? There was insiders on the 6th?
No, look, and that's
that
throws us into a whole different
it throws you in a whole new realm.
And we've had that conversation. There was a report that came out, and I know we're deviating, but a report that came out last week that talked about how some of these individuals that were the instigators
some have been arrested.
Some have been arrested,
right.
But some have been taken off the list for most wanted.
The founder of the Proud Boys, who's not even white, he's Hispanic, is a known FBI informant. This guy has repeatedly, over I think it's the past 10 years, has been an informant for the FBI.
And again, I will never, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to condone anybody that breaks, damages, messes up property, anything like that. No, I will never condone that.
But no, what you're,
is it so far-fetched now?
No, that's what I'm saying. Let's say 2 years ago, just to kind of give some wiggle room, okay? If you would have said that, everybody thought it'd be like, you're nuts. Like, well, the government would never do that.
I'm nuts.
So, but then we find out that the FBI, there were more FBI agents and informants involved in the plan to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer than there were actual people who were trying to commit some sort of act. And they know that they've funded it. They know that they planned it. They know that the government is essentially. Again, it sounds so crazy to say because it used to sound so conspiratorial, but these are literally false flag operations.
I'm not going to say anything, but I know
I'm not saying all of January 6th
so
was.
I don't want to say that I've become someone that has that tin hat on their head.
Right.
However, the fact that now, besides the Trump administration, now the Biden administration has not allowed for the assassinations of Kennedy papers to come out.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother conversation.
Pushed it back another year.
So you're like, what are you hiding?
Yeah.
That caused all of this uproar.
You need that whole narrative. This was the darkest day. We don't want anything else to be darker. So we have to stick with the whole narrative.
It ruins the fantasy.
That January 6th was the darkest day in American history. Now, if we bring out something that shows the Kennedy assassination was a ruse or there were some parts of it, or, we said, the darkest day in American history. I don't know. I thought the Civil War was pretty bad.
All right.
I thought Pearl Harbor was pretty bad.
Correct.
I thought 9/11 was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, let's try to stop creating narratives, especially when you're getting busted creating the narrative.
I know.
Yeah.
So what do you think the fallout is? I think this is either the nail in the coffin
From what?
In the Virginia governor's race.
The Tiki Gate.
In the Tiki Gate.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's not playing into the major media. No one's talking about
No, because it doesn't benefit them to. The corporate media is intentionally, and they have already intentionally killed that story because the ruse was found out. And even though the Lincoln Project took credit for it, I still think it was not. I think the Lincoln Project was paid to take credit for it.
I think it's got more legs than you're all giving it. I think this
agree.
is going. It might not come up now with legs, or it might not have an effect. But as the campaigns roll on, I don't think that's the last time we're going to see something like that.
No, of course not.
Because, and I guess dumb's the word for the night, but People like that are dumb enough
Well, I'll compare
to
it
do
to
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I'll
Yeah.
compare it to an example someone made about the Fauci and the beagles, and the experimentation on the dogs. We basically, to keep our hands clean of our morals and values, we pay other countries to do horrific stuff like that. Okay, that's a known fact, right? We give them research dollars to do that kind of thing, and I think in this sense, this was exactly the same. The Virginia Democrats and the Terry McAuliffe campaign obviously could not get their hands dirty pulling off a stunt like this, but they knew that the Lincoln Project would and would be willing to. And I think that they paid them off and said, hey, we're going to pull this stunt off, and then you're going to take the blame for it so that, we can all move forward. And hoping that the media was going to buy this narrative. But again, it's 2021. Like, if they've been able to dox everybody that was at the Capitol on January 6th, what do you think they were going to do to 6 losers standing outside a bus?
Well, guys, you carry it like you just said. There were pictures. There were all this of the January 6th. I hate to tie, and I guess that'll come later, but you tie sports to it. John Gruden, by all means, what happened with him, I will never condone.
Right.
Just don't believe in what he said. And I'm sorry, I think he has gotten what he deserves.
Yeah.
But 6, I want to know who he was sending these emails to. I want to see their responses because, the NFL went through 680,000 emails.
Right.
And found nothing else except for one person. There was no response.
And you're going down the same road I was going down, which is I think it was a hit job on John Gruden.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, there's no doubt he said that.
Yeah.
No, I know.
there's
But
no
what I'm
doubt
saying
he
is
did
that
it.
Them
all
taking
of a
just
sudden,
him out. Yeah.
well, that's what I'm saying. All of a sudden, they're like, okay, here's John Gruden, and you can go ahead and crucify him. Meanwhile, we're going to shut the doors on this investigation and all the other findings, and that was fun.
Daniel Snyder is a powerful man.
Yeah.
But
you would think that a legitimate, transparent organization would say, well, wow, I mean, if this is what we found just doing this,
What were the
imagine
answers?
and imagine if we keep digging, what else are we going to find?
Well,
no, they did the complete opposite. They
right.
said, okay, that was fun. Let's go ahead and lock that up and
Guys,
put it away.
we still have people that have beaten their wives in public on camera playing for the NFL. Literally.
Wait, how about this?
And we allowed that to happen.
Inside of a month, they checked 680,000 emails.
But God forbid you don't take your vaccine, because then you can't play.
Well,
in the
forget
NFL.
that. How about
Ooh, Hector.
680,000 emails and we can't find one of Hillary's? Really?
What's Hector got?
So, Hector, by the way, thanks for watching and commenting. One of the major recipients of the Gruner email was Bruce Allen, brother of former governor of Virginia.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can run through this rabbit hole real quick. But again, and this is why people get upset, because it's not equal across the line.
Right.
You're talking about, we need to get rid of these people, and I agree. What he wrote and what he said are inappropriate and should not have been done, especially on email. I mean, that's the first thing you learn in corporate America, is that every email is going to be saved
for John Gruden.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
I mean, you look at all this stuff, and now I look back a few years and think, what Al Franken did to get thrown out,
And not only
kicked out of
that,
the Senate because of it.
Because of that.
and the worst part is Gruden
And
wasn't
I'm not an Al
even
Franken fan.
At
so
the time, Gruden wasn't even an employee of the NFL.
Where was your
he was
hand?
not even. He wasn't coaching. He wasn't part of any team.
he wasn't.
I think he was at ESPN at the time.
Guys, let's get real though. He's got to go.
No, absolutely.
That
I'm just
locker
saying.
room.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever.
I don't care if he was an employee or not. He's got. But what you're talking about is how far back do you go?
Right.
I mean, we have a president of the United States whose best buddy was Byrd, who was
a racist.
Racist. He was a Grand Dragon.
Right.
I don't know what that means. Oh, I do know what that means, but like a menu order at the Chinese restaurant?
Yes, that was it.
Wow.
And they bring it with the white hood on.
Let's go ahead and bring the topics back up because I think it's a good transition point into our next topic, which is the NFL Plantation. I think the woke and cancel culture's favorite son, is back at it again as he got a big deal with Netflix, and I remember this being controversial in itself because I think most people knew nothing good was going to come of this, and an incredibly controversial trailer, obviously because they wanted to draw in people to watch this thing, which I'm assuming that there's probably going to be about a good half of the country that's not going to even bother to watch this thing. But comparing the NFL to slave owners and all the things, all the ways that they measured slaves, and this is just the trailer, and comparing that to these NFL combines where they measure how fast they can run, their wingspan, how high they can jump, and comparing that to the slave trade where slaves were sold off for their physical attributes. What's his end goal here? I mean, this is what is he trying to take down the NFL? Is he still just bitter because no teams want him anymore and his day's done?
He became irrelevant.
Right.
His 15 minutes of fame disappeared.
Well, the minute he kneeled down, I think that was the beginning of the end. I think he knew at that moment that if I don't do this, my career is done.
I'm going to say this.
I think that was because he was already getting benched by that time. Remember?
Yes, but I will say this. So there's a straight line from when he started dating that one woman that I think he's still in a relationship with now. And I don't want to say that's because of the female section of this department, but I will say...
If you are, let me move.
But I will say there is quite a line from when he started dating that woman to when he became very radical and very Black Panther, very Black Power, and all this other stuff. He was raised by an adopted white family,
Middle class family, yeah.
which is so mind-boggling to see where he's at now, where he believes all white people are the devil. Probably it's absolutely insane how far he's gone.
Yeah, and you have to. I do curiously wonder how it's affected his family life with his adoptive parents.
Evidently, there was
that have given him every opportunity, and the NFL gave him every opportunity.
Well,
and I think if you want to go ahead and make the point again that you made before the show, because I thought it was brilliantly put, as to just how ridiculous the whole premise is in general.
I can't take when you mention brilliantly, I can't take credit for that. I'll actually give it to my wife Robin on this one, but she's right. They go to the combines,
right,
and they're 40, their vertical jump, their standing broad jump, their catching, their pass routes, they do it all.
Right.
And then they give them a physical, and they poke them, and they prod them, and they do it all. Here is the difference between a slave auction, which they cut away to in the promo,
right,
and an NFL combine. You are doing all these tests and being poked and prodded and given a physical because someone is getting ready to give you millions and millions of dollars. Now,
I would submit myself to a combine every 3 months if they were going to pay me that kind of money.
Guys, I went to work, as most of you have.
I would die walking to the combine.
That's right.
When I was hired by ConAgra Foods, I had to take a physical. I had to take a test.
Drug test.
I had to take and I didn't like any of the drugs I tested. I had to take a test. No, don't. And it was my choice.
Yeah.
But they are hiring, when you go to these big companies and they're giving these CEOs golden parachutes and everything, they are giving them physicals. They are checking their health. They are checking their mental. They are checking everything.
The amount of things for a key man policy is insane. The amount of additional work and testing you have to get those policies.
Come on. It is very hard for me to believe in the amount of time I've spent around so many of these athletes, and I've been very blessed to do it. I do not believe they are going there and in their mind saying this is wrong. This is absolute. They train, they prepare for those combines for months. And of course they're going to get poked and prodded. Why am I going to give someone a $5 million signing bonus and find out a week later they have cancer?
Yeah.
Or find out they have a bum knee or something like that. Again, if you don't want to do it and you don't want the money and you don't want to play, don't go. There's
Well, that's the
nothing
biggest
saying
thing. They have a
you
choice,
to go to-
right?
you-
Right.
There are a lot of athletes that, I don't care where it is, NBA, NFL, baseball, whatever, that don't go to these combines and still get drafted.
Sure.
It is your choice.
Right. Because really what some of these players, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the sports expert, but what they're trying to do here is to raise their value really as a, or at least get noticed
course.
as a potential draft pick in these
course.
combines.
If you go to a combine, just like anything, if I go to a job interview, I am either going to raise my value or I'm going to lower my value. So if you get a wide receiver that goes to the combine and everyone's saying why he's in college, he runs a 4.42.
Yeah.
And he goes to the combine and runs a 4.68, his value drops.
Right.
If he goes and he runs a 4.18, his value goes up.
Sure.
So it's, again, everyone has
And we've seen
a
players
choice.
get discovered in these combines
Oh, yeah.
that were being completely overlooked.
Normally they're open for walk-ups that you're able to.
Right.
If you have the connections, you can walk in. And if you achieve the goals that are required for a team, they'll pick you up.
Everyone knew, look at the Bucks. Everyone knew Devin White was a stud linebacker. But I think at the combine, we all realized when he's running a 4.4 and outrunning receivers, okay, we got something special. That made a difference. But then you got quarterbacks that are number one picks. Why go and lower your value? What those guys...
Well, a perfect example was, and again, I think once his time is done in the NFL, it's going to seem like fantasy, right? It'll seem like it is. There's no way this actually happened. But if you go back and look at Tom Brady's performance at the combine, I think I might have been able to, at my peak, maybe have been able to do a better job.
All right.
Bless your heart.
All right. Bless you. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No, but my point is that he did terribly at the combine. I mean, it's...
No, he did. You are absolutely right.
He was slow. He was soft. He was, it is. It is what it is. I love the fact that he wears it. I love the fact that Tom Brady wears a T-shirt with a picture of him at that combine.
Well, hey, we should have seen it then, and we wouldn't have lost yesterday. He wouldn't have thrown that interception, and it wouldn't have. But
Let's not talk about yesterday's game.
But
That was
no,
rough,
but guys, this whole Kaepernick thing. Look, he might have had a message in the beginning, and I'm not going to say he did or didn't.
Sure.
Whether I agreed with him or not, he felt he had a message. Others felt he had a message. Now we're taking it to a different place in a different level where it doesn't need to go.
Well, the simple thing is that if you're looking at this as a societal problem, which he did initially, or at least that's supposedly what the message was, that there's some societal problems that need to be looked at here. Okay, that's all fine and good. But now he's brought it home to the NFL. And that's where I think the hypocrisy is just pouring out of this. When you're talking about the millions that these guys are making, and that, again, it's a choice. I mean, we're seeing more and more players, choose to leave early, and because of concussions and because of because they don't want to have those long-term
They've earned
effects.
enough, and they've been able to make a financial
talks
decision.
about that anymore, though.
Yeah.
You notice nobody talk. What's the new thing, and that's sports in general. Right. What's the latest and greatest?
Yeah.
And right now, whether we agree with Kaepernick or not, we are playing into Kaepernick because we're sitting here and talking about it.
Well, that's why I didn't even want to play the promo here in the show.
But
give it any more credence.
The thing, and this is the beauty of Netflix. I was able to see the promo, and I was like, I'm not watching this.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's nothing in this, knowing about him and his backstory, that has any redemption whatsoever. Don't get me wrong. I agree that he should have the right to be able to do what he wants and say what he wants. And even then, I was a little stickler of it. Like, only certain industries are you allowed to be an employee and do what he did. Because you would get fired in a heartbeat or reprimanded. So my situation has been, and also as a Floridian, someone in the Tampa Bay area, and knowing a lot of what the Bucks and Bucks players do as their philanthropy, they are making so much more of an impact in their communities.
Yep.
And they're not they're not taking a knee. They're not talking about it. They're doing the work.
Right.
And I had a huge problem when it came to Kaepernick that he didn't do the work. And that's usually what you see. The louder someone talks about this, the louder the odds are they're not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, who's the former Bucks player that like buys homes every year? Work done.
Work done by
still does
someone a house
unbelievable.
every single, Jameis.
Yeah.
Here is a guy who has moved on to the Saints, and he is a good friend of mine. It's weird to say that when he's my son's age, but him and I have spent a lot of time just sitting on a bench at Skyway talking, and I've watched him over the years, and he's grown.
Yeah.
He's got 2 kids now. He's still young.
Right.
He's 28 years old.
Yeah.
He's 27, 28 years old. And but what he has done for the youth of Tampa Bay, even not being with the Bucks, I know the Tampa Bay Youth Football League, and I know he cringes when I talk about this because he doesn't want people. It's not.
He's not doing it for the publicity or the credit, or
he's not. But let me tell you something. He has, through COVID and so forth, that man has almost single-handedly helped these 4,000 kids and kept them going. People don't know about it. They don't want to hear about it. But we all grow. And he has made his mistakes, and he has grown. Hopefully, and maybe, Colin looks back at some of this stuff and says, okay, maybe that was a little over the top.
Well, and this is kind of my final say on this whole thing with Kaepernick is that while I respect the NFL and I enjoy watching the NFL, I'm a very casual, I tell people I'm an ESPN sports fan. Just give me the highlights, give me the scores, and I'm good. But they created this monster.
Yes.
And now this monster, like it always does, has come back to bite them in the what.
And hopefully it goes the other way. I mean, let's think back years and years ago, me being older than you guys are, but Jim Brown was very defiant.
Oh, sure.
But you look at him now, and he's changed.
Yeah.
He still believes what he believes.
Yeah.
But he has.
But that was also a very different time in our
but
culture.
Now he does it in such a way where people listen,
Right.
Because it's not the defiance; it's the I have a message I want you to hear, whether you agree with me or not. Listen,
And that he was right on many of the things that he was pushing back on.
of course.
Yeah.
So again, my last thing in this regards will be that there is a biblical, not principle, a biblical, when it's a story, not parody, a parable. Thank you. There's a biblical parable talking about how, depending on the actions that you do, will determine if God is actually listening to your prayers. So if you're the person that's out in the middle of the street wailing and praying and making a show of it, you're getting exactly what you want. You're getting the attention. You're getting people think, "Oh my God, he must be so holier than thou." But the woman that's back in the corner praying on her knees quietly, God listens to that person. And I truly believe that parable is reflected in this situation.
What if I post it on Facebook?
You're getting, but that's the thing. It is easier for this generation and this society to post on Facebook and tweet about something than to actually go down to Nebraska and actually help a homeless person.
Right.
You could have told me about the praying in the corner last election, buddy.
There was a lot of. I lit so many candles for you.
All right.
I almost burnt down.
Wow.
Sacred Heart was quite on fire.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Yard Sign on that note. Joining me tonight, Anibal David Cabrera, and Hillsborough County Commission District 1 candidate Scott Levinson, who's making his second go at the county commission. Of course, we would love to see you in our county commission, shake things up. And, as I'm continuing to say more often, it is a sad day in Tampa Bay when there are more Republicans in the St. Petersburg City Council than there are in the city of Tampa. Now we're, obviously looking at the county commission. Pinellas could use some Republicans on their county commission. But it's kind of frightening, because I think, we had a good balance. And obviously we're seeing a lot of growth, but we're seeing the mismanagement of our school district. We're seeing the mismanagement of our mass transit. And I think all that kind of funnels back to the county commission.
What frightens me more than anything is people, and this is just society. We are not, as individuals, we're inherently smart. We have common sense. And when we look at what's going on every day, and we complain and we complain and we complain, but we keep putting the same old tired politicians, bureaucrats right back where it all started. I grew up in South Tampa. The same roads that flooded when I was a child riding my Schwinn Scrambler through the floods, because, those same roads are still flooding.
Oh, yeah.
But yet, let's keep putting those same commissioners. And you know what? I'm not going to sit here,
These guys have been there decades.
And I'm not going to sit here and say it's all about the Democrats, because we have had Republican candidates and commissioners and office holders that have been around way too long over the years, too. I do not believe our founders said, get elected to an office for life.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the Supreme Court, blah, blah, blah. But it's time for
And I don't
change.
I don't mind the trajectory. Like, if you think, okay, this is going to be your starting point, from here you go to State House, or Sandy Merman did. She went State House and then came back and did county commission, but even she, was there, in my opinion, just way too long. And I think it's part of the responsibility of these elected officials, much like they do because of term limits in the State House. It's find your successor. And mold that person and get them ready to take over for you, when you move on.
Or pretend to support your successor.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But the problem
Sorry,
is
I'm in a fiery mood tonight, and I just.
But they don't think that they have to move on because they don't. They don't want to move on because they don't have to.
Well, you see the president that's been in office for 4 decades, and then which they've done nothing.
Yeah.
For 4 decades, you did nothing, and you were in the middle of the road. You do absolutely nothing, and then you're shocked that people are upset with you.
He should be the most experienced, the most effective president we've ever had in history, and instead he's exactly the opposite. He is here coming up at the end of year 1. He will have basically destroyed his agenda in his first year, and he's going to be a lame duck for the next 3 years.
Loving
someone who again should have been the most experienced, the most known, the most respected president that we've ever had. And what does he have to show for 50 years of being in office? Nothing.
What was the version that people were talking about? That he was trying to be the candidate for everyone, so that the moment that now things are just falling apart in the country.
Well, that's not even the same Joe Biden that ran a year ago. I mean, that was the Joe Biden from 4 years ago and 8 years ago, and you know what I mean?
Did you see SNL make a joke about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm the Joe Biden from March. Ugh.
Right.
How much has changed since March of this year? Right. It's absolutely crazy. And again, I don't want to be the Republican that says we should start, we should talk about the 25th Amendment and things like that. But
we should.
But we're not. But we won't get anywhere with it. Because again, you're looking at tit for tat when it comes to the Democrats.
Well, and the Republicans right now don't have the grounds to actually try to enact the 25th Amendment.
We have no control
but
whatsoever.
If we do flip the House and the Senate in the midterms, I think you're going to see that argument resurface. You have to. I mean, everywhere this man goes, I mean, whenever he's off script, I mean, he's just talking gibberish. I mean, he was talking to the Pope about being a coach, I think for some baseball team or something, or I don't even. Regardless, is that he's become a laughing stock.
Look, the Pope is a mean slider. Mean slider.
Oh, man. But anyhow, thank you again for watching, everybody. Don't forget, you can download the audio version of our podcast over at the Tech Overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio. We are going to have not only tonight's episode, but we'll have the previous two up here shortly. Funny enough, it kind of ended up being somewhat of a sports-centric show, as I kind of wanted to bring this up as a topic, not because there's a lot to discuss, but also because I think it lends to the greater conversation about the popularity of both the current president and the former president, and of course, we'll get into what 2024 may look like. But President Trump over the weekend attended one of the games at the World Series. There were videos of him laughing while the fans in the stands were chanting "Let's go, Brandon!" there, and then of course during the game, being Georgia, being a Southern state, and being a Republican president, he busted out the tomahawk chop and was out there showing his love for the Atlanta Braves.
His was a little weak. I will say this.
Well, he didn't want the FBI to come after him, for domestic terrorism.
I will say this, Melania, I was surprised that she knew what she like.
Let me tell you what, though. She had that elbow locked.
Yes.
Melania was.
Plus that beauty pageant training.
I got to tell you.
No, it's this. Not this.
I was more focused on Melania's chop than I was on Donald's.
Yeah.
But she had it down. She was But that just shows people think he's real. Yeah. I don't care if you agree with his politics. Look, everyone sitting in that stadium was not a Republican.
Correct.
I don't care if you agree with Trump's politics or not. He's charismatic.
Yep.
He is too honest.
Yes.
But he is also a guy that I think people feel they can talk to.
Yeah.
Now, does he have the class, like I'll say, of what he should say and not say, like Ronald Reagan did? No, but I think there are a lot alike where people feel they can approach him.
Yeah.
And talk to him.
Well, and again, this goes down to whether you're in the media, whether you're a candidate for office. Relatability and likability are huge factors.
It's everything.
Those are huge components. And when we're talking about Trump and we're talking about his likability, and again, going back to that 2016 campaign, like there were people who were criticizing him because of the way he spoke about the issues when they did the postmortem on the 2016 election. It was that got him elected. People felt that he was talking to them in a way that they could understand the issues, that they could understand his platform, his agenda, and where he was coming from. I mean, again, I forget what it is nowadays. I think, that the average American has like a 7th or 8th grade education, and when you're talking to people, like a normal human being, it instantly makes you more likable. But he's been a likable guy his whole life.
He has. I mean, you either like him or hate him, of course. But I think the majority like him. And I think that's why in politics, well, what's your 30-second elevator speech? What's your 3-minute speech? He didn't have one.
Right.
Nor did he care.
Right.
And because I don't think you can have a canned speech for everybody.
Yeah, but the other thing
Everyone's an
too is
individual.
that
But that's what politicians think that they have to do. They have to have
Yeah,
that canned
right.
speech, and someone needs to write a speech for them to be able to do that.
You can miss me on
Trump,
that.
I know. Trust me, I know. Trump has been running for president his entire life. It's so weird to think about it that he has been able to take over media. He's been able to take over real estate. Now he was able to take over politics, and I think that's what.
well, I mean, you have interviews from Oprah from 30 years
yeah.
ago,
But-
where
but
she was
that's-
asking him if he was going to run for president.
Yeah.
And when he would even kind of considered it, before he gave an answer, the crowd would go nuts. Yeah, and looking at that, you realize that he's the same guy then that he is now. Now, he's a unique animal in the sense that how many billionaire developers are as famous and well known as he is? None.
Right. Who wants to
You
be
know,
that famous and known?
But he's been this public media figure again for the last 30 to 40 years.
And there has never been someone like this besides Reagan, I think, that Republicans have really fervently wanted to support. So the polls that just came out from the NBC that came out this morning shows that a visceral what's happening with the president, and showed that only 15% of his base are like engaged in him running, like are very adamantly supportive of him. Whereas with Trump, you had, I think it was like 33 to 35% of his electorate was super supportive, and like they would walk through glass to get to the ballot to vote for him. So,
well, it tells you something when a year later, after losing a campaign, you still see the T-shirts, the bumper stickers, the flags, the hats, I mean, why? It's so unnecessary, but yet they're out there. And I think that says a lot more about, because it's all about what does this candidate embody, right? And what do you embody, Scott? No, and when you talk about like Barack Obama, like Barack Obama embodied like a new generation for this country, right? And, hope and change and all that stuff that he fed people, right?
Yes, we can.
Right. And Trump in the same way, again, embodied that make America great again. And when he said that, again, I would liken that to really, I mean, and as a personal reference, I would say like the 80s when we kind of felt that we were invincible and we were unstoppable and we were great at everything, and there was this bright future ahead of us.
You were doing different things in the 80s than I was doing in the 80s.
I was growing up in the 80s.
I was
coloring. I was learning to color inside the lines. In the 80s.
I was in college up and down Bourbon Street in the 80s.
There you go.
So,
well, America was pretty great then.
I don't know about America, but New Orleans was fantastic.
he doesn't remember the 80s. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think now you see the signs are still up, the flags are still up.
Right.
New slogans are coming out. Let's go, Brandon, that they were chanting at the game, and is on T-shirts now and everything
Which
else.
is driving the left and
Insane.
the media nuts.
Insane.
Horribly insane.
And so NPR had to go on and do an entire explanation. No, they're not talking about an actual person named Brandon. They're talking about something else. And just listening to the NPR news loud, I'm like, these people are insane.
No, it's bad when, I saw on Twitter, where you had some idiot on there pointing at that, all these people out there chanting, "Let's go, Brandon." How will we explain this to our children? It's like, come on. It's like, get over yourself. After all the profanities that they were yelling at Trump, for the past 4 years, and certainly the horrific things they said about George W. Bush during his administration.
They still call him a war criminal. They still want him to go to jail.
I will say this. I am not a big fan, nor was I with Bush or anything, when people are doing the X-rated chant, or people were carrying flags, F Joe Biden or F Trump. Look, I still respect the office.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He, good, bad, or indifferent, he is the president.
Yep.
As Trump was.
Right.
I am not going to.
And they're human beings.
I am not going to carry a flag that says F Joe Biden or F Donald Trump. I'm not going to say it in public.
Well, I wouldn't even carry one in favor of them.
Right. But they do have families.
Yeah.
They have friends. And now the Let's Go Brandon, they got lucky. It's a spinoff.
Yeah.
It is driving the left absolutely nuts because How do you counter it?
Well, and they can't, and it's popping up in the most unexpected places, right? You know, we're talking about, obviously its origin was at a NASCAR race, but we're seeing it at college football games all over the country. I heard that apparently the chant started at the Rolling Stones concert here in Tampa.
But they try to say it only happens in southern places and southern sporting events. Well, let me tell you.
Or inside a Southwest cockpit.
That's fine, but let me tell you, the last time I watched Michigan play Michigan State, that wasn't in the South.
Well, and there was a demonstration.
They were doing it there.
There was a demonstration recently in Washington, D.C., predominantly of African Americans, and they had the Trump shirts on, and they were chanting going down, down one of the major streets there in D.C. I mean, I think it has encapsulated a way to repudiate the current administration in a way that, again, it's tongue-in-cheek, and you can kind of get away with it because it's not vulgar or offensive, and I think people have embraced it that way.
I was at the field this weekend, and I heard more minorities saying, I told you that this was going to happen. I told you he wasn't going to do anything of,
The buyer's remorse is insane.
It is. It's like they just bought a $55,000 car, realized it's only worth $15,000,
and it's a lemon.
Now what do we do?
Yeah. And the Brandon Bears have seen a huge increase in support.
Brandon Bears are on fire right now.
That is a team to behold. Those guys are brutal.
Those guys, they knocked off,
they were just destroying teams. I mean, the 2-3 weeks that I went, I mean, they were just taking everybody out.
You know what it is, I will say this, and you spend time out there, and we're, I guess, leaning towards sports right now.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Knock on, but you've witnessed it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the crowd that's out there. I would say we're 80% minority.
Yep.
And there's no politics.
No. Mm-mm.
You don't see shirts.
No.
You don't see anything political over the last 8 years.
The only thing anybody's fanatical about there is football.
Yeah.
Almost to a detriment. I mean, at times.
Cheerleading's scary, too.
That's a whole different animal.
But you don't see that entering into the equation.
Right.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really
and because at the end of the day, most people don't have the time to bicker about politics.
Correct.
They're trying to put food on the table. They're trying to pay for their kids' football practice. They're trying to get them to football practice. I mean, like for the average everyday American family, like they're just not entrenched in politics in the way we are.
Nor should they.
Right. And
Nor
so
should they.
when all of a sudden you see that the federal administration is just off the rails in fact, completely, that their food prices are going up, their gas is going up. Now it's affecting their livelihood. Mm-hmm. Now it's hurting them where it hurts them the most, which is in their pocketbook. When their checks aren't going as far as they used to. When again they can't go out to eat as often as they'd like to.
And you have an indignant White House and a press secretary that says, "Well, you guys have to deal with it and you have to pay it because of climate change." Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Don't forget, you can catch the video version of our show on YouTube and Facebook. Please subscribe and like and share the show. But if you'd like to take it with you just about anywhere in the world, you can listen to the audio version of our podcast on any of the podcast platforms out there. Thanks to the tech overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio. And please, while you're there, not only subscribe and listen to the show, but leave us a little rating and again, tell your friends about it. We really appreciate it as we continue to work our way to growing the show. We're going to go ahead and get into tonight's final topic, which is the St. Petersburg mayoral race. We have two good candidates, Ken Welch, which again, for some people, they might be the career politician in this scenario. He's been in the government, in politics in Pinellas County in a long time. And then you have kind of a generationally the next generation of, I think, political leaders, and Robert Blackman, young guy. I think he's first or second term city councilman. I believe it's first term city councilman, but has shown a lot of leadership, has really kind of stayed at the forefront of the agenda for the St. Petersburg City Council. So much so that he was able to kind of clear the field, at least on his side, in terms of the early nonpartisan primary. And you got to give him credit, again, in a district that is predominantly Democrat, being the city of St. Petersburg, that he is in among the final two going into tomorrow's election in St. Petersburg. And, I'm excited by even, the potential of having a Republican mayor in St. Petersburg again. It feels like it's been ages because Kreisman has been there way too long.
Yeah, way too long.
But of course, he was preceded by, not Rick Baker. I'm forgetting his name now. Bill Foster. And then Bill Foster was preceded by Rick Baker. Really, in a way, I would say leading the charge to a lot of the growth that we've seen in St. Petersburg, which I think has also trickled into the growth we're seeing here in Tampa. I don't know how closely you guys have been following what's going on there. Some people are saying it's not going to be close at all. I think Welch has a lot of baggage. And Blackman has, I think, been doing all the right things and being in all the right places, to truly earn, that side of the vote that he's not going to get.
I think you're right back what I said a few minutes ago. You have got, as you said, the lifer and the newbie.
Yep.
Sort of. And it's just, folks, we need change.
Right.
I have followed the race. I tend to support someone like Blackman because I think we need fresh ideas. People that have been there forever, all they do is present problems. I want solutions.
Yeah.
I think Blackman knows how to find solutions. Is he going to get over the top? If people wake up and realize if they want change, you have to ask for change.
Yeah.
Well, and I was talking last week with a former school board member of Hillsborough County, and it was disappointing to kind of get that reassessment of, what's really going on behind the scenes and why things are in such bad shape. And honestly, it comes down to these people that have been in these offices way too long, and they have these relationships that they're not willing to sacrifice, because they want to stay on their good terms, and so they're not willing to make the difficult decisions to get the organization, the district as a whole, to going back in the right direction, because they've greased so many palms and there's so many favors owed that they can't make the decisions that are going to help the population at large.
Which is so sad. It's so sad that we have that situation. And again, there are other organizations in the Tampa area that we can say the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole the crisis that occurred at Career Source was just unwillingness to let people go because they're doing a bad job, or actually look at the audit. And we can talk about other organizations when it comes to the education system.
Guys, I just don't believe. And look, I was president of the TBYFL for 20 years. Mm-hmm. It's way too long.
Yeah.
No one else would run. and I can't say I did it willingly the whole time.
Sure.
But no one else would run. And, it's, you look at the Strauss Center. Mm-hmm. They've had the same president for 20-something years.
Now that she's earning $800,000.
Well, there's time.
Not now. We're giving them our tax dollars.
Right.
We are giving them our money. Everyone says, oh, it's a public building. Yeah, it is. That they pay $100 a month for, and they get to keep all the money.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they also have thousands of volunteers that come and volunteer for them, year round.
We've given them,
for performances, for multi-million-dollar performances that happen there on site.
We've given them $2 million, and now we're looking to give them another $23 million.
Yeah.
And this is because the old protects the old. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to believe that we can't find something else to do with $20 million.
Yeah. No, and we had Luis Vieira on. What was it, last week?
It was last week.
God, it feels like it was like a month ago.
2 weeks ago. Sorry.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago we had Luis Vieira on, and he shared that sentiment. He's like, "There's no reason why we should be giving them this amount of money," and not to say not to give them any money, but to give them $25 million over the course of 5 years is a ridiculous amount of money.
That's just our part. The city's
Yeah.
another $25 million.
Right, especially when we're looking at, again, you were talking about the quality of infrastructure, mass transit, affordable housing. I mean, there are plenty of places where those millions of dollars can go, and I get it. Like, they're looking at expanding the convention center. They're looking at expanding apparently the Strat Center is going to use some of this money to expand
Into the
their
Riverwalk.
facility.
They're
But
going to put a restaurant.
yeah, and then so is the Tampa
Yeah,
Museum of
yeah,
Art. They're also going to do a huge expansion. When again, it's like,
What percentage?
have we solved all the other problems and I wasn't aware of it?
What percentage of the people in Hillsborough County go to the Strat Center? And of those, what percentage of them are not in the upper 20% income earners?
For someone that attended,
Or live in the city of Tampa?
yeah, exactly, who don't live in the city. I'll say this: for someone that attends the shows quite often, and many of our friends do at the same time, there is a huge demographic problem. There's a huge
Yeah, think.
there's a huge disproportionate.
Well,
of
they've
what's
tried.
going on.
They're starting to, to introduce different kinds of programming and events and things like that.
How about the cost to attend them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we do a lot of free shows. Okay. How many times can you go see the Nutcracker Suite?
Whoa. I see Lion King at least 3 or 4 times when it's here in town.
Yeah, but you're paying, $50 a ticket at least.
I wish I was paying only $50 a ticket.
More like probably like 75
Do you know where my seats are?
I
in
mean,
the cloud.
I think Robin and I have gone to 1 or 2 shows there.
Yeah.
We've been together 26 years. I'd rather watch it on TV.
Y'all are, I don't want to have this conversation. We need to.
Would it be revealed too much there anymore?
I am still upset that we lost Miss Saigon last cycle because of Corona. I have issues.
Have you seen that?
I have seen Miss Saigon. I love it. It's a great show.
I got to see it on Broadway, actually.
Oh, isn't it good?
I did see it at the Strat Center many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
I mean, 20-something years ago.
Sure.
So Hector's trying to bring us back into the fold, talking about earmarks, and that's really what we're talking about now.
That's what we're talking about.
It's something, and again, the budget is something that we need to really be talking about, and someone needs to be looking at it.
But to the greater point that I think Scott and I were trying to make is that, again, this is what happens when you have the same people just recycled year after year after year, and you don't have new ideas, new solutions, I thought, again, Bob Buckhorn got elected very narrowly. It is still a miracle that man got elected.
Who was the person he beat?
Rose Ferlita.
Could you imagine her as
Which,
mayor?
again, talk about recycling. Gosh, we were looking at Dick Greco, Rose Ferlita, and then here was this guy who's virtually unknown.
It was Greco Jr.
No, it was Greco.
No.
Oh, you mean the time
under
before?
Buckhorn.
Yeah.
And nothing against the other two, but Buckhorn was like, I think people were just like, okay, it's
They're
a
ready for
different
change.
name on the ballot, and it turned out to be a great mayor.
But Hector's talking about earmarks, like you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, but you look at what we do with our money, and I'll use the big thing.
Oh, don't get me wrong. He loved all the shiny, pretty projects.
Right, but
And moving black people out of the city.
Yes,
that's true.
the new thing around is splash pads.
Right.
Water splash pads in these neighborhood
Yeah.
parks. Well, if you look around Hillsborough County, speaking of earmarks, you've got a splash pad in Northdale. You've got one in Carrollwood. You got down in Waterset. You've got them everywhere. There's a splash pad in this county. 2 out of every 3 houses have a swimming pool.
Wow.
Carrollwood, the cultural center, the new park, all have these new splash pads. These new.
Oh, my daughter loves them.
Great.
Yeah.
But why are we only putting them in neighborhoods of people that can afford their own swimming pools?
No, the exception.
They're the ones that vote. They're the ones that come out and vote. They're the ones that come out and complain.
And the exception is probably Julian B. Lane is probably the exception. But what did they do? They moved everybody out.
Right.
They cleaned house.
What did I say earlier?
You can say
Moving
come
black
out and
people
vote.
to the county.
you can say come out. Those are who come out and vote. Those are who come out and vote because we have spent, or I should say, the left-leaners have spent so much time convincing what they consider their stronghold minorities.
Yeah.
There's no reason to come out and vote. We got your back.
Right.
Don't worry about it. We're going to take care of you. You don't need to worry about a thing. And I'm sorry, it's a lie, and they have been putting it to them for years.
Yep. Well, and the studies are showing that they are losing on the Hispanic side more so than on the African American side, but they are losing those demographics very quickly. I mean, it's eroding. It's eroding, because there's only so many that you can only cry wolf / racist for so long, before people were like, okay, we don't see it anymore. This doesn't apply, and that's the thing. Like, Democrats painted Republicans for racist for so long, and people are like, I don't think so. I don't see it anymore. I don't see this, and I think that's why people are reconsidering, especially when you talk about that they're more prominent people in pop culture that are starting to question their loyalty to the left, and that begins to snowball, even if it's just to cause people enough to go and do their own research. I think that's a huge impact.
And we're seeing this on a national level.
Yeah.
Is the country heading in the wrong direction? 71% agree. What are the approval ratings for the president? 42% approval, 54% disapproval. Republicans, percentage-wise, doing a better job. They're up 23% in border security, 24% on infrastructure, 22% on fighting crime, national security, economics, getting things done. Republicans are up 13%. It's absolutely insane what's happening right now. And again, you're coming to a point to where people are saying, you told us this whole time Republicans are bad, Trump is evil, and everything else. And what have we seen during the pandemic? Democrats going straight up scorched earth and becoming semi-dictators. It's absolutely insane what occurred. And people got to see the true colors of a lot of liberals and a lot of liberal policies. And they're seeing that, and they're voting with their feet. They're moving, and they're voting now with these midterms. If tomorrow, if the Democrat wins by a few points, it's a disaster. They won, was it Trump or Biden won Virginia by how many points?
10
or 11 points. If you're telling me that the Democrat in Virginia cannot win by more than 10 points, that's insane. They've already lost. There's a huge problem. And you're going to continue seeing this problem across the country, because I don't want to say that Virginia is a bellwether of what's going to happen, but if the Republican is within striking distance or loses by 1 or 2 points, this is a nightmare for the Democrats.
Yeah. All right, everybody, thank you again for watching the Yard Sign, and thank you to our special guest today, Scott Levinson, who is running for Hillsborough County Commission, District 1. Your website, sir?
VoteLevinson.com. I need your help. I know Anibal right here. Look, I need your help. I need your donations. I am learning to ask because Anibal has told me I'm in trouble if I don't, but I do. And I'm not a money guy. Yeah. I don't need, there's people that
it's an unfortunate part of the equation.
It's a real equation,
right.
Yeah.
Right. But I need money to fight the battle that we need to fight to turn this county in the right direction. And look, put new people in there, please. I plan on being there 4 to 8 years. Please push me out when I hit that limit.
All right. And then, of course, joining me as always, Anibal David Cabrera. Let's go ahead. And do you have your one last thing? No. All right. So we're going to call it a night for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for watching again. Watching closely tomorrow the results, not only here in St. Petersburg, but also watching very closely the gubernatorial results in Virginia and New Jersey, which we didn't really touch on, but New Jersey also could possibly be electing another Republican governor. Not as close a race, I think, as what we're seeing in Virginia. But, man, if we get another, like, Chris Christie type up there, I think that is sealed and delivered a doomsday scenario for Democrats come the midterm elections. What, Anibal?
So the Intelligence Committee released their findings of the coronavirus, and their verbiage that they talked about was very much leaning on the fact that, yes, it probably did come from the Wuhan Institute.
Everybody knows it came from the Wuhan lab.
But yeah, but you've never seen it actually come out of a government paperwork. So I was very surprised about that, and it was very interesting to see what the reactions are going to be.
It was also here a lot earlier than they thought.
Oh yeah, they're thinking now September, October is when it came into the States.
Yeah. All right.
That was my one thing. Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you back here next Monday, 7 o'clock on all the social media platforms. And again, don't forget to check us out on the Tech Overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio for the audio version of our podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much, everybody. Until next time, good night.